Yo, what is going on, everyone in the XRP community? Hope you guys are having yourselves a fantastic Tuesday because I got more awesome information for you guys on XRP, and we've been getting a little bit of insight from a former Ripple employee who used to work there for about 5 years. Now, if you did watch today's stream, you're most likely already going to know the topic of this video, but in this one, I'm going to go really narrow into it and explain it very briefly and very basically so you guys can really understand the gist of what he's saying here. Now, on stream, I read through the article word for word and gave my thoughts on it as I went on, but here is kind of like my final. I'm not going to be reading it to you guys. I'm just going to be kind of explaining what he is describing in this actual form here. So, essentially, what it has to do with is essentially kind of a plan where Ripple could use the XRP that they have, which is the $17 billion worth that are in escrow right now. They can actually use that XRP to start funding liquidity to market makers over and over until XRP essentially becomes the standard and the liquidity will already be built there in place to where in the future they wouldn't have to keep funding it over and over. But essentially, what we're seeing here is the XRP that Ripple is holding can actually be used to start getting the ball rolling on some bigger corridors with XRP so we can start getting banks to start using it at a higher scale so they see much bigger impact and much more savings. Therefore, they will want to continue to scale that technology. So let's go ahead and let's get into it real quick. XRP to the US dollar on the 4-hour, we are creeping up to 31 cents. Yet again, we are on a symmetrical triangle. Now we are in a big weekly symmetrical triangle. We are still inside of that one. We ain't going to be out that one for like the next week or so, but this is on the 4 hours. So again, each candle represents 4 hours of time. And as you can see, we are getting very close. Now, last symmetrical triangle did actually come to fruition, but it did not explode as much as we would really like it to. It only went up a couple of cents and then kind of came right back down, but then is forming a second triangle. So let's see if we can have at this again, see some good price action. So let's get on to Bob Way's actual forum. So I read this entire thing through stream with a sore throat actually as well. So it's actually quite even tough to read the whole thing. But now I've gone over again after the stream. I've actually talked with Bob a little bit on the forums. And I want to go ahead and explain to you guys what he's really talking about here. And he's answering the question of when moon. And first off, he always says, I don't know. So that's kind of what everyone says. We realistically don't know. But if we're to theorize about it a bit, this is what kind of needs to start happening. And in the long term, he expects also, yeah, by the way, this former Ripple employee who worked there for 5 years, he said, in the long term, I expect Ripple as a company and XRP as an asset to succeed big time. Big time means dramatically transforming and improving the world's financial systems and the way money works today. I'm expecting XRP's long-term moving average to rise as more and more transactional liquidity flows through a growing Ripple net, not just speculators and people wanting to, get rich quick and just make a quick buck on XRP, but actually real transactions coming through the network and the network essentially being leveraged for what it was truly meant to be leveraged for. So, but again, short term, XRP volatile and prone to spikes. That's going to happen. So what he explains in the rest of this is that essentially, to break it down for you and put it down very briefly without going into too much detail, he does talk about, if Bob wants to send, Bob wants euros, but Alice wants US dollars and the trade can't be done. But then, the transactional circles are smaller with fiat currency because not everyone is going to want that specific fiat. So the transactional circle is actually much bigger with XRP, meaning some transactions that were attempted in the past couldn't actually even go through because Bob and Alice couldn't agree on the fiat currency. Those transactions would completely not go through, and there's actually no more people involved, and essentially explaining that the transactional circle of XRP is much larger because of its interoperability and being able to seamlessly convert into another currency. So these deals that used to not be able to happen could now happen with XRP, and everyone would be satisfied and everyone would get the fiat that they please. So after he explains this whole thing, somebody replies, SERP Digger, veteran on the XRP chat, was here when he was a silver member when I was just first getting in 2 years ago. So he quotes Bob Way's statement and says, but I believe it is actually possible to force XRP into a position of de facto bridge currency. And that is what that patent is about. A lot of people are talking about his patent that he brought up, and he was really left in a gray area. We weren't 100% sure on what this patent is. So he quotes the whole, and that's what the patent is all about, is forcing XRP into a position of being the actual standard bridge currency and doing that by essentially paying market makers and letting them make profit off transacting XRP, so we can kind of get rolling off the bat with a lot of liquidity going to get some serious volume flowing through, not just some little Philippines to Thailand and Mexico to New Zealand, or some exotic corridor that are lower liquidity. Sure, XRP solves a problem in those corridors, but where we really want XRP is into the juicy ones like the US to euro, US to pound, US to yen, yen to pound, euro to pound. It's like we really want to get in these corridors which dominate the forex market, because that's where we would be seeing the most impact with XRP. Yes, it works the best in exotic corridors, but yet again, to provide the most benefit to XRP, we're gonna need to get into those higher liquidity corridors. And we could do that by Ripple leveraging their $17 billion escrow war chest. They can use that XRP to leverage, they could leverage that XRP to incentivize market makers to hold XRP and interact with the ecosystem and provide liquidity, so these big banks can get on big corridors to start saving the most money. Because yes, in Mexico to Philippines, if a bank's dealing in that corridor, yeah, they have to deal with, they have to deal with a lot of fees on that end. But again, that's not where the bulk of their cross-border volume is coming from. And we want to tap into that bulk cross-currency flow, but we need to have the liquidity in place. And that's where this patent would work, about leveraging that big war chest of XRP to incentivize market makers to hold it and interact and provide liquidity and blah, blah, blah. I'm kind of repeating myself, but you know what I mean. That really, we need liquidity to get into the high volume corridors where we're going to see the most upward pressure on XRP's price, because we'll have the most trade interaction in the higher corridors. And that's where the patent could bring in that war chest to incentivize market makers to allow that to happen. So SERP Digger says, so in summary, is it fair to conclude that Ripple sitting on a massive pile of XRP is in fact a preferable strategy to distributed minting and other token distribution methods? This is what I always thought was Ripple's secret sauce. Holding back that XRP, keeping it out of the market, leveraging it later down the road. Guys, these guys have been thinking years ahead. They held it back so they could leverage it later down the road to incentivize market makers once it was worth something, so they could kickstart the ecosystem on higher volume corridors. So, not because of how much they own in of itself, but because they can use the stash to bootstrap and fund liquidity over and over again until XRP is a de facto bridge asset. And in fact, even if we assume a better, faster, cheaper, more secure network token comes along, it can't compete without using the same strategy, which is holding back massive token amounts. And Bob Way says, bingo, that what he just interpreted here is in fact correct, that this is Ripple's secret sauce. And not because of how much they own in of itself, but because they can use the stash to bootstrap and fund liquidity over and over again until XRP is the standard. Guys, I can't tell you how happy I am to have someone from a former Ripple employee who worked there for 5 years in various positions alongside some Ripple executives, I imagine, like David Schwartz, to really have someone like this come into our community and give us this kind of insight is truly astonishing, and we need to be very appreciative of it. So Bob did ask me to send some of you guys this way. So he's actually planning on writing an actual book, or he says he's not 100% sure if it's going to be like a book or more of like a blog or an ebook. He's not 100% sure yet, but he wants, he has this Bob's Book Club. I suggest you guys come on the XRP chat, free to make, free to join, come join his club, and you can talk all kinds of topics. And one thing he wanted me to send you guys over to, which I'll have this link in the description below. I'll actually copy that now so I don't forget. I'll link this in the description below, and this guy has really said a lot of stuff. I mean, there's a thread out there called Hi, I'm Bob, and it is 45 pages long, and he is responding to people's questions on every single page, and he is providing so much insight. So, in return, I think he's asked me to show this to you guys. So you guys can go over here, and from what we've read from him, he wants to know from you, he actually really wants to know what you're saying or what your thoughts are on the most impactful things that you've learned. So he says, I've written lots of words on this forum. I'd like your feedback on what really made a difference in your understanding. I'll use your feedback to guide which topics to focus on first. Please try not to add duplicates, but please do like topics others have mentioned. So he actually just want to hear back from you guys what you do think, because man, I got to tell you guys, he has provided so much insight, answered a lot of questions, and made so many things clear, and allowed us to kind of get a little bit of a peek into the background of what it's really like at Ripple from his experience. So it's really awesome, and he wants to know your guys' insight. So I will link a description in the I will link this in the description below, so you guys can go kind of comment there and see and kind of let him know what's the most impactful thing you learned. And honestly, the most impactful thing I've learned is this right here, about the real reason why Ripple kept back so much XRP out of the market, because I believe I'm kind of interpreting that they knew, they were planning way along down the road that if they kept a lot of it back, they could leverage it later to really get done what they want to get done. That is really awesome. So make sure you guys do let them know what your feedback is, again, in the description below. And thank you guys so much for tuning this video today. I really do appreciate it. Make sure to drop a like, subscribe, check links in the description if you do want to support the channel. Get yourself a Nano S, keep that cryptocurrency nice, safe, and offline. And by the way, an update, guys, I do now have my XRP on 3 different ledgers. So something you might want to consider if you are super paranoid like I am. Make sure to hit those post notifications so you never miss a video or stream. And let me know what you guys think in the comments below. I always do appreciate your guys' insights. So thank you guys for tuning in this video today. I'll see you guys in the next one.